Peace. Here a little bit early, so I started, but I'll be here till 7:30. All right. All right, just getting some things ready for the curriculum, things that I'll share. See how we do. Frank M, peace. Any questions do you have about anything? I always like to start off with any questions that people have. Peace to the God, justice.
I can show you better than I can tell you.
Peace, God.
What's up, man? Peace, God.
Peace to the God.
What's up? What's up, God? Outside? Yeah, well, you got your class tonight, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I see you here, Justice. The first thing I was thinking was that thing you said about that challenge, man. I was thinking the same thing, you know? Every day it seems like social media degenerates. And you know what's interesting is that the algorithms get tighter and tighter and tighter, more constricted. Very interesting. People worry about AI, but we're already dealing with AI, you know? We deal with these algorithms, you know? How do I feel about the fifth answer? It's very specific. Very specific. How long you had knowledge? Let me get some details. Do you have a righteous name? Just want to know a little bit more. Where are you from? Okay, I'd like to hear the whole story. Just as you said, indeed, God, the same people pushing that channel, say one on their account, screaming, put the gun down and stop the violence. Peace, Amaru. Okay, okay. All right. Well, you're a student in Rome, and I assume that you got it. Do you have an enlightener? I just like to know these things. You know? All right. Now, you're talking about the fifth answer in the student enrollment. Um, why is that? Why is that an issue? That's like the most. Yeah, honestly, that's the most factual out of the whole set. You know what I mean? What I mean by factual is that the population figures could vary. You know, students have always had arguments, myself is included. You know that these population figures that they would fluctuate. So you know that's a particular time. So that's the third degree, the fourth degree. Those would be statistics. No matter what, it would be statistics, right? The equality degree, the God degree, the Bill degree, those are statistics, but with even more interpretation, because now we have to interpret what is useful. Okay, Elijah doesn't really explain what he means by useful, so it's actually interpretive. The born degree is philosophical, right? And the knowledge add on the cipher degree is factual if you know the time period, you know the reference. But the fifth degree is the most factual. You know what I mean? Right? Exact area of square miles, 196 million 940,000. Wow, this is dirty. I didn't even notice this area here. Excuse me. All right. So infinite mind. Okay. Well, I don't know if I answered the question. I mean, it would seem out of place if you're a young student and you're trying to see why is all this other stuff here and why is that here. So that's not a bad question. But I've always seen the student enrollment as the most broad based. You know what I mean? And I think that it was cluing you in into the scope of the entirety of this world. It tells you the useful land, but then it tells you the useful land after it tells you the entire square miles of the planet Earth. So it's trying to get you the scope of how large the Earth is and how particular the useful land is. These are important. You know what I mean? These are things that I would look at immediately. You know, I'd like to know your reason why that was the specific question, though. Mm-hmm. Which is a good question. They're all good questions. Noah, peace. Again, I like to start the class with any questions, observations that people have. You know what I mean? I'll tell you this, Justice, going back on an IG thing. I have less and less put my children on IG. You know what I'm saying? And the social media. You know what I mean? My oldest has her own social media. I think it's on her to put what she wants. I know it's on her, not think. And yeah, it certainly doesn't feel communal in that sense. You know what I mean? Well, if you saw that degree cannot be wrong, Amaru. So if somebody's degree say a total miles, it's completely wrong because you can't measure a three-dimensional object, especially a round three-dimensional object with just mere miles, because miles is linear. You'd only get the diameter, right? So you have to, actually have square miles. So there's no such thing as total miles of the planet Earth. That's lazy. Somebody got their degrees lazy and they wrote it and shit like that. You know what I mean? And the land and water aren't in the student enrollment, right? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Let me know. Anybody that's in here. I see there's a couple of people in here. Remember, you're not really a student of mine unless we become active, build, or whatever capacity, right? Because you get to choose the capacity that you want to build with me. The capacity is based on how much you engage. You know. Indeed, Amara. Yeah, that's definitely peace. I mean it for everybody that's in here. Lately, the last couple of sessions, I haven't gotten many questions. Is why, you know what I mean? But when I was getting knowledge itself, this goes back to the that question, peace, Jarrell. That question that I had received. I can't remember who it was. Sent me a really interesting email, and I have yet to answer it though. I have been consumed by certain things, but good and bad. Um, about thought projection, projecting your thoughts. My concept here that I think that we ought to be focusing on isn't the thought projection, but that significant moment where where a thought turns into something. You know what I mean? Just as you said, the only way someone would have land and water in the lessons is if they're using supreme wisdom lessons from NOI. It's a good point. Yeah, good point. But that still wouldn't be in the student enrollment. You know what I mean? Um, so things are, let's say if it was like that, things are getting copied down incorrectly. You know what I mean? And remember, people really want this knowledge. And when they get it, they copy down whatever it is that they can. You know what I'm saying? When I got knowledge, I was trying to do that, absorb as much as I could. But since I went straight to the root, I realized that all I had to do is just work hard to get each set. You know what I mean? Right? But this idea of thought projection, I want to put you on to an author, William Walker Atkinson. He learned lots of Eastern sciences and spiritualities, mainly from the yogis. And oh, congratulations, sir. That's real peace. That's real peace. I don't even know why you're on here. That's real peace. That is beautiful. That's great news. That's great news, man. All right. But you know, it's funny, when my oldest was youngest, this was when I was reading these books. I remember Savior Knowledge used to sell these books, and he used to always put me onto them. And his name is William Walker Atkinson. But William Walker Atkinson, um, he used to write under the name of Yogi Ramacharaka, and that became significant to us guys that were training in martial arts, because William Yogi Ramacharaka wrote Science of Breath. Now, from what I learned was that they were all written they were all written by William Walker Atkinson, but he learned with Yogi Ramacharaka. And when the books had more of his blatant esoteric teachings, or the teachings of the yogis, word for word, he credited to his yogi and gave authorship to Yogi Ramacharaka. So certain books I give out, especially if you're doing martial arts, the science of breath. And the reason that I give that is because that's what I was given. When I started to learn Kung Fu, the gods, knowledge eternal, and all, right? They were like, yo, to get into this Qi Kung thing, you start out with the simple. And the yogi science of breath, the way the yogis did it with prana, was a simpler gateway into being useful. You know what I mean? Right? So the science of breath and all these books, but William Walker Atkinson, I can't really find it because I don't have my I could do it on the phone, but I have a big William Walker Atkinson reader with all of his books, and he wrote a lot of books, about 100 books. I'm pretty sure I have all of them, because I have a book called The Complete William Walker Atkinson. You would like if it was complete. But he was around the same time with the New Age concepts, New Thought. And so a lot of his books were about thought projection, not just not just like thought manifestation, or like what As a Man Thinketh was talking about. You know what I mean? Right, with James Allen, which is really the Dhammapada, right? But this idea of projecting your thought outwardly, and certain practices you could do, and all of that, and some of it was extremely interesting. I'll read you a couple of titles here, you know, and I think that they're interesting because we know where he was getting this stuff from, and it's intriguing how he formulated this in a more of a Western context, and that includes us. We could say our modern context. So, like some of the simpler titles: Art of Expression and the Principles of Discourse, Art of Logical Thinking. I'm trying to find the one. We got this list here, but I'm trying to see if I can figure out the one I read. Self-Healing by Thought Force, right? A series of lessons in personal magnetism, psychic influence, thought force, concentration, willpower, and practical mental sciences. Not scientists, science. The subconscious and the superconscious planes of mind. Telepathy. Now, what's interesting is that if you have a Google Play Books account, you can. I'm going to try to open up my Google Play, the bookstore. Because I bought my complete William Walker Atkinson for like $2, you know, and I mentioned these because Savior was really into these, you know. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I have this one. Let me see. I forgot the name of the one I have. It's a complete collection joint, but they have one here, Ultimate Collection, 58 books in one volume. Anyway, The Power of the Mind, The Law of Attraction, all of these things. These are all books that he wrote, and I think that they're very intriguing. They're very intriguing because when you get the knowledge of self, a lot of people, when they get the knowledge of self, they don't really know what it was like to be around the older gods, because they're not around the older gods. You know what I mean? But when you're around the older gods, a big topic of discussion is the mental willpower and the strength of the manifestation of the will upon all things that Allah had, and also the true and living gods have, right? Not just Allah the Father, but Allah, all the true and living gods, right? And this was always something that we spoke about, something that was a regular build, you know what I mean? And those books were books I read early on. They were beautifully bound, these blue bound covers, you know what I mean? Hardcover copies, you know, leather bound, very nice, you know what I mean? But they're digital and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So I think I don't have my drive here. I don't bring my drive outside unless I need to. I don't have it here, so I don't know. Not really sure what. I'm not really sure if I have that book, or if I bought it, the complete volume of all of his books. I can't share that, but if I got it some other way, then I can. So if you want to, just email me. I could send you some William Walker Atkinson books. You know? Let's see if I can find it. I'm pretty sure I have it, but since I don't, I do. So if anybody's interested, I have the complete works of William Walker Atkinson. It's a big book. It's an ebook. It's almost 8,000 pages. So he wrote a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? And some of these things, some of these ideas are interesting because we know that they're coming from the East. They're coming from India. A lot of these thoughts, and they're very intriguing. Very intriguing. All right, peace. All right, true self. You said peace to God's on earth, day of knowledge, culture. You asked at me recently reached the 140. However, stuck on the quotation of the Bill degree. Any suggestions on capping said degree? All right. First thing you got to do, right, is try to come to some insight on each sentence. Right? When you come to some insight on each sentence, then that means that you have an understanding or you have a question, right? Try to catch the flow. How many sentences in it, right? Check your short-term to long-term memory, right? I'm sure it's not the question, right? The question is very simple, right? Right? So now you have to go into the words. I think this. There's all types of techniques for memorization, though, but I think that the best way is just repeating it in different times of the day. Make sure it goes from short-term to long-term memory. Also, too, is to develop an insight to it. Sometimes if we don't understand a degree or it has no living reality with us, then it's not, the mind is not going to absorb it. You're not going to absorb it. It's not important as you would hope it to be. All right. The word. So you're getting confused on a word. Okay. Right. Well, in the grammar, Elijah did not ruin the grammar on this one. You have to say approximately, right? The earth is covered underwater approximately. It can't be approximate. So you got to get it, you know what I mean? It's about, right? 3/4, right? Peace, Malik. Family is holding up. Um, Short answer, Malik, is not getting better. So So all we could do is just keep strong, right? Handle it. Noah, you said, in what ways does prayer not coincide with thought projection? Very good question, Noah. Um, I think this. First, we could say the thought projection is that, and here's the thing, because you didn't read it. I can only tell you what I think. I think this. I'm gonna tell you what I think after I tell you what William Walker Atkinson saw as thought projection. So it is different than prayer with William Walker Atkinson, because the thought projection was focused on something very particular, an individual, an idea, a specific moment. So the thought projection was focused on something. Even some of the exercise I remember reading in the book would be like if you walk, someone's in front of you and their back is turned to you, to focus on them, to have them turn around and stuff. You'd have exercises like this. And so I think the difference between that and prayer is the focus. It has it has a destination, you know. With prayer, we know that the destination is not real. You know what I mean? So the action that we're expecting cannot be really done. You know what I mean? It's a little bit different. It's much different here. You know. Remember, it doesn't mean I don't necessarily bear witness to the whole thing, but this is a real documentation of a Western documentation of a lot of the stuff that was coming from the yogis and the Indian yogis. It's very intriguing. Absolutely, Malik. Every day, you know, every day. That's all. Yeah, that's all we could do. That's all we could do. Right. Noah, you said, what are your thoughts on the relationship between the 10th degree and the 136 that speaks on the wrong foods, and the 10th degree and the 110 that mentions nations other than Islam? Very interesting. I have never made that connection. Is something I didn't make myself. It was so I can't say I ever thought about it until it was a long time ago. I can't remember who it was, but one of the gods was building, and he was talking about that those are considered some of the wrong foods. Remember, because the wrong food that they considered that the wrong foods. Now, when I got knowledge of self, I have been in the year born 1999. I had been vegan 3 years, since 1996, officially, right? Because I had gotten rid of pork in 94, dairy in 93, so everything else by 96. And so I certainly read that degree as like immediately the wrong foods, but then also wrong foods mentally. But I didn't correlate the other degrees in that way, even though that's something that we should do. But yeah, the 10th degree, the other religions, certainly. And this is my build on the 10th degree and the 1 to 10. I consider there's a specific reasoning to me why Christianity and Buddhism are in there. Okay. As a side note, always note that the Buddhism year is always conflicting. You know what I mean? In there it says Buddhism is, it says it's 35, thousand years old, which is not really correct. It technically would be 3,500, 35. 3,500, not 35,000. But at the same time, though, we could always talk about it goes back to the origins of Hinduism as well. And 35,000 years would give you more really the origins of Hinduism. And Buddhism is seen as an outgrowth of that. But I've always seen that 10th degree as the wrong foods in the way that they're used. Christianity is a religion of the outer, where you search outside of yourself for something that doesn't exist. Whereas with Buddhism, and in the studies that I've learned of it in great detail, and also as a martial artist, Buddhism to me in that degree represents the religions of the inner, where you could get lost into your own mind. You know what I mean? And this, especially in the east of India, with yogis and those spiritualities out in the east with Hinduism, there's a specific word for it, where people get steeped into their own spirituality and they get lost inside of it. You know what I mean? So that's a thing. So I always saw that 10th degree as the religions of the outer and the religions of the inner. You know what I mean? Where you go deep into the mind, right? And get lost in there. But you could also get lost looking outside of yourself. And that's in the Western world, the world that we're in, right here in the United States, and most of the people that are building here. That's really where we would get lost. You know what I mean? And everybody has to worry about, peace, God. I got here early.
Yeah, peace,
God. Likewise, God.
Tell me happy birthday, God. Yeah.
Oh, happy born day, God.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
May God honey.
Oh, God knowledge. Right?
Look, when I can go, I can do one of these trading posts when they can deal with this government check I got. That EBT. Because over there, they don't tell you.
Justice, you said from my memory, I read over the lessons every day, and I have a personal audio of myself reciting the lessons to myself in my headphones at work all day. That's because you got the smooth voice, Justice. You got the smooth voice. But yeah, that's how Prince used to give us tapes of his quote the lessons. You know what I mean? What you want to do is do the short term to long term. And then once you pass that, what you want to do is also get down your insights to it. What I mean by insights is you have to write down your understanding of it. And if you don't have an understanding of it, try your best to explain what it is that you don't understand, or what parts of it are giving you a blank, or that you know what it means, but it doesn't really draw or bring about some specific understanding. Or even if you write down things that you learn from whoever's teaching you or anyone else, as myself or anybody else, about the degree. This is important. This allows you to, to really use the degree, because this is one of the people always worry about quoting this degree, but this is going to be a degree that recalls in your mind. You will need this degree. This is a degree that you live. You know what I mean? A lot of people say yes, Malik, when asked the question, could prayer be meditation? I haven't heard from Quatis, by the way. I missed the guy. I'm going to reach out to him. It's been a while since I've seen him. Could prayer be meditation? A lot of people say yes. I say absolutely no. The beginnings of Eastern meditation, though, are basically with letting your mind go. It is not, meditation is different from prayer because you're not focusing a thought. Now, I said that William Walker Atkinson didn't see projection of thought the way prayer is, because you're not projecting it to a specific individual, right? However, prayer is of a specific mental thought about what is desired. That is not meditation. Okay, a lot of people, the basic root of meditation is to let go. So the simplest meditation, if I could get, right? Sit down in the chair, feet flat on the floor, hands here on your kneecaps, complete breath, right? Bottom, mid. This is the pendulum of the complete breath. In through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the nose or out through the mouth. And what you were doing is you were letting go of all thought. Whatever it is, you can let go. Anything. Right? To even be more attuned to the Chinese Qi Kung, you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. People talk about lotus positions. I can do the lotus position and pretzel myself. However, you don't need to do that. Okay? You can simply do it this way. Right? Nothing difficult. What you were doing is letting any thought never stops. So what you're doing is just not attaching yourself to the thought. It comes through, just let it go. Just let it go. You start thinking about something, when you notice, let it go. One of the ways to let it go is the only thing you focus on is your breath. And you just let go. And this is the reason why I cannot say and agree that prayer is meditation. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. You know? Meditation is about focusing on something that is wanted, desired, hoped for. And that could all be well and good. You know what I mean? If it's going to lead to someone being focused and finding answers within themselves, just getting their mind churning better. But I couldn't agree with it as a way. You know what I mean? No, he said, I asked this because I've been reading into the Buddhist thought, and there are several aspects of their system that I question, in particular, their understanding to promote nonviolence, docility, passiveness, meekness, regardless to the extent of one's aggress against. All right, here's the thing, right? There are many good documents about Buddhist thought, about Buddhism and Buddhist thought and mentality and what the Noble Eightfold Path is and all that kind of stuff. And, not dealing with suffering and stuff like that. What I would suggest to you, though, and this is my path when I study the ancient spiritualities of the original people, really. I try, instead of reading about someone's literature about what Buddhism is and what they teach, find the original text. In other words, you'll find more use in Buddhism if you find those texts that they actually study. So you want to find translated text. The most important, you want to read books like I mentioned, the Dhammapada. Okay, right? That's what you want to read first. Okay. I prefer the Thomas Byron. Right? And again, if you email me, I can send you all these things. Okay, I have all of these things digitally. All right, and of course, many other books. I don't have my database in front of me, so the most important Buddhist books, but the ancient text of Buddhism is what I find more crucial. Now, okay. Now, if you want to find some, now these are older in the public domain, but it's a huge database, and it's something to start with immediately. You can find a lot of the ancient texts. The only problem is because they're old, they're using very early translations that are not as great as translations later, but it gives you a good foundation, to sift through and see the difference of what I mean. All right, sacredtext.com, sacred-text.com. They're all spiritualities of the East, Justice. So Sufism is similar to Buddhism in many ways, but they don't focus as much on the Eightfold Path of suffering. That is not a major focus in Sufism. It doesn't have particular doctrines. It just has ideals that are expressed within the Sufic order. So many of the Sufic orders were really predicated on them. It was really predicated on them dealing with specific storytelling, all of that. Like one of the best books to read is The Way of the Sufi, because you get like a great overview. I forget who wrote that. Idris Shah. I don't know how I forgot that. Again, you guys are all talking about books that I read in the early 2000s. Any of Idris Shah's books are worth collecting.
He's not changing the idea that I absolutely fight for you more. So that's how I got to give you more people. That's not about 40 more. You need somebody else. It doesn't mean you get stuck just in that one little circle. Get lost in it like it's actually called freedom out. You sitting there, right? So people tell me, when you build it, yes, and the real devil is the woman. So I said, yes, here you go to them. I said, God, what are you talking about? And he goes, talking about God, saying, whatever. I said, no, I'll tell you something. What do you want? I wouldn't fuck with you all. I take this one, dummy. He had a problem with love. Yeah, he had a problem with dogs. So what he did was he told his sons, right? Listen, man, like, you know how the woman is, right? Don't go do shit I just went through. You don't have to go down into government.
What was the other trick, Nas, that Musa didn't teach the devil? You know what? I think it's all in front of our face already, though. And I'll just give you one for you to research and just to think about. But the trick knowledge of structures of society. I'm very big on this because the foundations of devilishment are really coming from the building of societies and the blind spots that are within societies, right? And that means, let me close the door because I'm hearing. But when we look at societies, right? Let me stand up for a little bit, see if I can get, because my legs is getting sore. All right. When we look at the construction of societies, right? There's never anything. I love to write here, but in the construction of societies, you have different institutions, and these institutions overlap and work with each other. When you learn about what Masons do, that secret knowledge, what is being exploited, though, is the connections between them. And that's why politicians are crucial in this, because politicians, they know and study the connections between institutions, right? And those are the weak links that make an entire society work. If you study Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, he talks about how Africa was divided and spread out by the dissolution of institutions and the spreading it out. So some people had this, some people had that, some people had education, some people had the religion, the spirituality, some people had the architecture, but everything was spread out. This is what makes the power. And I think a major part of trick knowledge is this reality. You know what I mean? But that's very important, though. Let's give me a moment. Yes. I switched up my legs today, so I was going really heavy on Bulgarian leg squats and lunges, weighted lunges. You know what I mean? So just challenging my legs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Feels good, though. Feels good. You know, I definitely will be doing it more. All right. Let's see where we're at here. Oh yeah, my smooth voice is all because of women. Yeah, just man, yeah, because just be smooth. He be soft and smooth, you know. Just be kicking it to him tender, the tender voice, right? True Self said, peace. So is Buddhism younger than Catholicism? Uh, Not really, not really, because you gotta understand that there's not really too much new in Buddhism. Buddhism is a focus of principles that was reinvigorated. You know what I mean? By Shakyamuni Buddha. So he saw and he decided to forego his kingship, and it was because the tenets of Islam had gotten too. He didn't use the word mysterious. That word is not used, but they had gone too much into idol worship, which is what all the prophets deal with, right? When idol worship goes too far, then they step in. That's what a prophet mainly has been in our research and what we know. So when we look at that, technically, but even still, Buddhism would not be younger. It would still be a little older, and much older if we attach it to its Hindu roots. Those are troublesome degrees. Those are troublesome degrees, Malik. You know what I mean? But if you look at them as like, how do we react as a society of men, women, and children to who we take in and deal with, ninth degree, or who we must not take in and get rid of? You know what I mean? Two different mentalities. Technically, in the society that you build, they could both be under the same case. So it depends. You know what I mean? But you got to look at them more factual. You got to look when you start studying history thinking of the ninth degree and the 10th degree. Which policy, or when you look at politics, which policy is more toward the ninth degree or the 10th degree? You know what I mean? This country here, even though, right, they deal heavily with both. They absorb people, and that's the image they give you, right? They give you the image that they take in people, but it's really exploitative, and they're really exiling most people. So it's really a combination. I mean, it's Muslim teachings, Malik, right? So the practical way to look at the degree when it says fast and pray, we do fast, right? We take care of our health, and when as opposed to pray, though, we focus on the mission at hand. We focus on the mission at hand, right? But these are, these are Muslim lessons, so they're gonna have that mystery in them, right? Peace, self-elevation, peace to God. VC realm, peace. Silver medal Sunyas. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. Sam, you funny. Yeah, they're out there. If I go out there now, I'll be absorbed in the great conversation. All right. See, the sciences of how institutions and society work are what is lost. You know what I mean? How they coincide. You know what I mean? When Musa taught them how to build homes for themselves, what do you think he taught them? He taught them. He's not teaching them all to be carpenters that invade the original people. That doesn't make sense. Teach them how to build homes for themselves. It means he taught them how to be functional in society. But he also taught them to be aware of the foundations of how society works. You know? You're funny, Octane. Right? Name some institutions. Military, right? We'll say, I don't want let's say, martial, martial protection, right? Protecting at home. Give it a different word just so it can be real to us. Education, right? Agriculture, general economy, right? All of these things are connected in some kind of way, right? These institutions, right? The, the real perfection of a society is in how these connections overlap and work toward each other without now here's an example, the general idea, not an example, but the general idea is that if they overlap and have too much ignorance to each other, you get a repetition of activities and a repetition that gets passed on to the people. That is what we call bureaucracy. Now that destroys societies. Look at Cuba. You know, people didn't turn around and say, look, we love Pitbull, the hell with this, and we're gonna twerk and reggaeton all night. That's probably what's happening now, but Cuba really fell apart more so because of bureaucracy. That is people argue that that's not the only reason, and I agree. But bureaucracy is a big part of that. You know what I'm saying? When the people are fed up, though, they go past the channels or they disrespect channels of the institutions that interlock. And so they get their own things when they can. If I can't get food, I can't get this medical fast, then I'm going to override certain things. And so the connections of institutions suffer, right? All of these overlap and all of these suffer each other. You know what I mean? Let's say internal protection, internal martial protection has to do more work though. If people override the institutions of food because they're not getting food when they pay for it, then now the economy suffers, but then also people have to actually stop them from what? Engaging savagely, right? To sequester their foods, right? This impairs other institutions, right? It also makes other institutions not as important, like education, right? Education is great. Again, in Cuba, education is off the charts, but it becomes irrelevant when other institutions are not holding up their end. And these interconnections are affected by each other, and they're also propelled by them. To me, the devils of the society, though, have continually worked to manipulate these connections. You know what I mean? How do they manipulate these connections? By giving us things and have us think, you know what I mean? Having us think they are something. You know what I mean? Even though they're nothing. Nah, it's really not building home all the things that go into that. You know what I mean? All the things that go into that. And remember, the real thing that has to happen is that they come down again. How do they come down and not get exiled? They have to have something that they can offer the society, that they can be sustainable and also add on to the society. So they have to show that they need society, because they do, but they also have to show that they can add on to the society. That's the difference. All right. All right. Noah, what's the most you asked what's the most skillful way to lead children to full knowledge of themselves? How do we lead them towards answering their own question without suggesting answers, avoiding indoctrination? Now, with all things though, you want to give them viewpoints, but you also want to be honest about where you stand with things. You see, sometimes people try to teach children by, especially your own children, by doing the opposite and assuming that there's no bias, eliminate bias. No, there's bias, but it's everything is always taught by the earth, wind, and fire. Always give them the earth, wind, and fire, the reasons. You know what I mean? The reasons. You know what I mean? You give them the reasons on all angles, then they can make their own decisions or see things as they progress and as they get older. You're funny, Malik. Gordon Lewis, somebody that for style and emphasis and stuff, we watch all the time, man. Watch Gordon Lewis for hours and hours, man. Legend. Peace, true divine. I know I gave a simple answer, Noah, but a lot of times it seems that simple. You know what, my children, because my lifestyle is so in contrast to others, a lot of times the way that I teach my kid, especially my youngest, is having to explain it. Like, why am I doing something totally different than everyone else? You see? So a lot of times if I explain the reason I'm doing things differently, that in itself teaches a lot as well. All right. Noah, you said I find that the foundation I teach my children is always challenged when they go to school. 8 hours in school every day is a lot of time. As a father, how do you handle this though? I don't worry about it too much though. I always have a total disrespect of the power of things that are not true. And because my entire life, not just what they teach in school, but everything that I do is so different than everyone else that my child will encounter, I don't seek to worry about having to hide things that other people will do. You know what I mean? And again, I explain things, I show things. You know what I mean? I also show them the benefits of things. You know what I mean? I did, Malik, and they were really nice. They were really nice. You know. Peace, Rakim. Jude. Peace to the God. He was smooth in his movies and all of his movies, especially run short flicks. Yeah, he did. Yeah, absolutely. Indeed, it's open now. I mean, if I'm here, that means it's open for everybody. Yeah, but it's been open. Mm. P.E.A.C.E. Malik, you said in the ninth degree, when it says the universe is everything, sun, moon, stars, the planets will grow from the beginning. What's a practical view to look at this? That everything is developed. Everything is developed. Everything, all, and that's the duality. Although everything always has been and always will be, every piece of it though is ever developing and ever developed. You know what I mean? So everything in the universe though is developed. It is created. It is made. You know what I mean? And that's the way to look at it. You know what I mean? So even us though, we had to develop ourselves into this physical body to then inhabit the planet that we made, this earth that we're on. You know what I mean? The planet's part stumbles me, and I thought all was destined to be a planet or different stages of growth. When you look at the universe, though, everything is growing and living. You know what I mean? Everything has a set date. You know, all the things that we mentioned, sun, moon, and stars, those all have a set date. You know what I mean? Right? All those have a set date, you know? And so does my family, right? Everything has a set date. So you know, when you look at it like that, that means that we are ever, but it also confirms that we are ever creating. You know what I mean? Mm. Serious mathematics. Peace. Peace. All right. Any questions? There's a lot of good people in here. Any questions about anything? I know. Last week it was like I was really, you know, going in and stuff like that, and I just wasn't really in the mood. You know what I'm saying? But as you could see in this just mere hour, there was a lot shared and stuff like that. Um, I think a lot of these devils are quiet though because they're learning. You know what I mean? They're learning. Instead of complaining about stuff, they could, you know, learn. You know what I mean? One of my co-workers, Jude says, withdrew their nationality and now United States, Morocco, Republic. Different passport drivers like not mandated for vaccines. Zero taxes taken from their paycheck. Wow, that's interesting. But how did they get themselves part of Morocco? Yeah, I don't know if that's the Moor science though. That particular republic though. So that's new to me. But the Moors, yeah, apparently they do that. You know what I mean? No, we don't have a set date, Malik, but the idea that we do in this finite world means that we are ever building, that we are ever creating. You see what I'm saying? Remember, the reality that makes us God is not because we are infinite, it is because we master all the realms, including the finite world. See? Okay. So that's important. It's a combination, right? The all of the elements in the universe are within us. They are us, but they also compose this entire universe that we are extending outward and creating. You know what I mean? Right? That yes, serious. Yeah. Malik, I don't know what I'm elaborating on though. I don't know what I'm elaborating. Only because it makes total sense to me. So I don't know what I'm elaborating on. So um, because I'm not really sure how you thought of it though. You know. Peace God. When I train people in person, I usually don't Zoom it. You know, when I do the Zoom, I usually do Zooms individually with people. You know, so we could do that any time that we configure. Noah, you said, what are your thoughts on sensory perceptions of the original man, such as telepathy, astral projection? How are these experiences understood within the framework of knowledge itself? I think this. I think these are all possibilities. I would think this though. If we as a people haven't really developed our knowledge, a knowledge of self, I don't know how we could develop those things yet. You know what I'm saying? So if they are not widely seen, then how? And you know, when people talk about telepathy, projection, things like that, everything that we do demands work and strength of work, right? Depend culture. Once culture is lived, it demands power to reach equality. So whether it's telepathy or astral projection, how strong does one have to be able to do these things? And I think what I'm saying here is that I don't think that we as a people have done the work yet. We're not at that level. You know what I'm saying? So I don't take it out of the frame of possibility, but the actual way that it could be done though isn't widely known or at this point widely logical. So it's just a a possibility. And in the stages of science, though, it's really just in for the most part, right? Because I didn't say I'm incredibly well read with this, but for the most part, something that in the science stage, it's mere questioning of things. You know what I mean? Malik, you said that's what I was going to say, Sunez. The no beginning or ending, yet in this finite realm, we're not such or creating. We are. We are creating, actually. I disagree with that. Every time that they study the universe is expanding and it's ever developing. I say the opposite. I think that we are extending ourselves all the time. You know what I mean? I think that we are developing. And I think that we are creating things daily and affecting the entire universe with every thought and with every action. You know what I mean? I don't think that we just affect this just this planet. And yes, the mind has always been here. That's really the thing. That idea, right? That we have always been here. So whatever form we take, we'll always be here. You know. Right. Let me see here. That's funny, man. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's very awkward. You know, in the years teaching here, like I keep saying this, but when I had confrontation, I would ask people to come, and they would have to come eventually. And certain people, before the internet really took off, and before social media, people spent a long time coming here, but challenging me through side stuff and things like that. And you know, all the while doing so, I had people do devilishment where they would stay outside of the building and tell people not to come into my class, you know what I mean, while I'm in here teaching. You know, so like I know what when people do devilishment, you know what I mean? And my word has been bond 1000%, you know what I mean? And so it just gets a little frustrating because it wastes a lot of time. It wastes a lot of time, you know, right? That's peacefully. Peace, God. You said in one of your older videos you discussed 10 progress questions. Number 10, prioritizing the personal judgment into an ever constant judgment. Can you explain? Wow. Yeah, wow. You really took notes, God, because that's one of my earliest plus lessons. And in my book, shameless plug here, I think I gotta look through it. Let me look through it. I don't think I put that in the book, but my Peace Course book, a lot of the stuff was written during that time. That's a very old plus lesson I wrote. I don't think it's in here. I don't think I put it in the book because that's more for my students directly. No, I didn't put it in the book. Peace Corps book. I'm gonna tell you how long it is. It'll be about. I can't until I lay it out. I can't really tell for sure. About 120 pages. Irony, right? But what I meant by personal judgment is that when we get to justice, right, the 10th letter in the alphabet, that's not, you know what I mean? So when we talk about justice, right, we're talking about what happens, what gets added to the cipher depending on what you have done. And when you take it from a analytical point of view, that thing that people add on is what they expect to be the reward or punishment. But I don't think that's what we are living. When we live our own realities, that point of justice, though, is really our ability to properly judge ourselves. You know what I mean? So, how do we judge what we are doing, though? You know what I mean? And in that progress question, I don't think I have it on me because it's not something I digitized. I don't think I wrote it, you know? Peace, God. I just got your text. But, I don't, I think I'm going to write this down because I would like to go through the progress questions. You know what I mean? Because I wrote them so long ago, um, what has happened to those progress questions is that I have lived them and I have taught them over the years, piece by piece, whether I'm conscious of it or not. You know what I mean? So it's all right. So I'll definitely have a note. So again, because of what I'm going through with my family, every week that I'm here is week by week. Um, so if you want to come and build with me, like the guy said, like it's always good to contact me, you know. But I'm doing my best to come here regularly. But yeah, that is just petty online. I agree with you hard. Yeah, it is. It is. You know, it is. You know? The reason I brought it out, by the way, is because I want people to put out their arguments. I am very, very willing to take an argument against me at any time. You know what I mean? Because then I don't have the chance to show and prove. If I can't answer to an argument, then I can't show and prove. Then how am I supposed to? You know what I'm saying? How am I? How am I supposed to do? How are we supposed to continue if I can't answer to it? So I have to know exactly what it is, and it's never made clear. It's never made clear. You know what I mean? In fact, when it's made clear, it usually goes against what Allah taught as who is the original man. It's pretty much it. What is the measure we judge ourselves? Is it our responsibility, potential, unrealized? You know what I mean? All of it. All of those are factors. You know what I'm saying? All of those are factors. So when we look at things, we judge ourselves by the responsibility and expectation of what we should do, but also the potential, because we make choices. The choices for your potential sometimes can go against your responsibility. You know what I mean? Like, for example, my life, I've been doing things with hip hop and I've been doing things with martial arts, but people assume certain responsibilities I have, though, and I make those choices to go against what people assume are my responsibilities and make the development of my potential my responsibility. So, like, everything that I do, when people see that I've done things for a long time, martial arts, been a writer, all these things. These are all things that I was hip hop too. These are all things I was expected to quit as being a responsible adult. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't quit any of them. You know what I'm saying? And I found a way to engage them while defining what is responsible to me and showing and proving what is responsible. Because we always are responsible, whether we have children, whether we have loved ones, all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Right? Hope that answers the question. Unfortunately, I don't have the progress questions in front of me. Yeah. Yes, peace, Malik. Do we ever evaluate or judge upon others' point of view or solely on ours? Well, that's why I wrote the progress questions, because sometimes, a lot of times, we're often criticizing others. Like, look at social media. That gets you lost in in what you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And that also is an exercise in criticizing others, whether they be celebrities or other people. Well, number one, knowledge accumulated. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go from what I remember. Um, we're always accumulating knowledge, whether we like it or we don't. So it's either how much we're accumulating, that could be a problem, not enough, too much of one thing, not really enough, misjudging what is truly knowledge and whatnot, or knowledge that at this moment isn't the most useful knowledge. So all of these things are in that realm. I'm not sure, but again, next week, God, I'm gonna go into the progress questions because I think that's a great build. It's one of my best builds I've ever written, and I totally forgot about it until you mentioned that. I think I taught it. The last time I taught it in class was around 2020 when we were all in lockdown, and I just started going online here. Indeed, Malik, these are great questions. Justice, you said, yo, God, remember we were building on divine and supreme alpha, and how many misinterpret what it means? I see it more as the attribute of God, the original man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. You know what I'm saying? I think it's all right. When we look at the divine, sometimes it delves into the abstract, and that's why it's hard. But the divine is that most high nature. So it is in God, it is in the original woman, and it's also in the children of divine. So like my youngest daughter's name is Alma, which means soul. Technically, that would be like the most concrete word in the supreme alphabet has that aligns with that. You know what I'm saying? Aligns with that. Yeah. Oh, you wrote a communication, health, training program, learning to live, principles seen and developed. Yeah. But as we get through 6, 7, and 8, I really want to again, it's a whole plus lesson that has detailed answers. So I like to explain the answers that I had in there, as opposed to just giving a new insight raw. Because when I teach it, as I teach my plus lessons over the years, I want to read to you what I originally wrote and add on to it. But I don't remember exactly how I wrote it. You know what I'm saying? Off the head like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, so definitely I will get into. I already wrote the note down, so next week that'll be a thing that we go into, and it's important because when we look at ourselves, a way to look at ourselves concretely. Because what I wrote these progress questions because I was in the stage of being obsessive. That hasn't really ended because all of the things I started to do that were obsessive became natural. So that's when I started to read and absolutely demand of myself. I read 52 books a year. That's when I started martial arts training, and I said I'll do it like it's got to be at least 4 to 5 days a week. I got to do some martial training. Everything became very rigid. You know what I'm saying? I told you in those early years teaching, I actually was doing 3 36-hour fasts a week. You know what I mean? I might do Monday into Tuesday, right? I might do Thursday into Friday, and and then do Saturday into Sunday. Like I really was going in, and that 3 36-hour fast would be the equivalent of a lot of days. You know what I mean? I don't even know. But how many hours would that be? That'd be 36 times 3 into 24. About 4.5 days. You know what I mean? And I literally did that to literally get the pork out of my body. Like, what if it was there? I didn't want it there because I remember hearing Firstborn Prince say it takes 7 years to get the pork out. So I was like, I'm gonna go OD. Right? Good question, Noah. What is the meaning? What does it mean to return to the essence? What is the essence? What's the nature of the return to it? Everything is one. Oh, the mind is all one. You know what I'm saying? So when you return to the essence, you return to that which is one. So everything that I was and I am is now part of that whole essence. It is in this case, now my reality is no longer, this reality of what I was is no longer a reality that is living in this way, right? It is now an actual body of knowledge. It is now knowledge itself. The reality is now knowledge. Everything that Allah did, He is now knowledge itself. He now just is. You see? So everything that we truly, truly know of Him is knowledge. That's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? So every time we get understanding from those that return to the essence, that's their understanding now is a body of knowledge. That was their insights at that time, their realities, all of that they encompassed. So when I think back about what Papa Wu, Freedom Allah, used to tell me, that's his understanding. But in the realm of things, his understanding now is a body of knowledge. It's a reality of knowledge. And that is the essence of all things, just what is. And his supremacy was powerful. So what is so, so intense. It cannot be destroyed. Why? Because the essence is actually what? The mind. And the only way that it continues to live is through the mind. Right? So if he exists in some other plane, right? We return and we become in a different plane because this is just the physical body for this planet, right? Then that means that what he is living now, right? That body of knowledge is with him. That is his essence. You know what I mean? He has returned to the essence. It's incredible. Kasim, you said, and that's the point of living and going through what we go through to add on knowledge in this existence. Because that understanding that you gave God, that was based on knowledge and was right and exact, becomes part of the body of knowledge. I'll explain. Somebody learns something that is knowledge, in actual fact, right? They use it, they wisdom it, and they get an understanding, a revelation of its purpose, that they either live out as culture, and part of that culture is also how they explain it as well. Their understanding that gets explained. This becomes part of the reality of the world and the universe. And now that is actually something that is real now. Their understanding has become something real. Not just to themselves, but to everybody. This is powerful. Malik, you said, is this something you have as a plus lesson? I don't recall getting such. The progress question? No. You know why, Malik? The progress questions is a plus lesson a long time ago. So I actually, peace, God. Yeah, how you feeling, God?
Very well.
That's peace, God. That's peace.
Yeah, it's good diabetes.
Oh, man.
It's
Oh, man.
so I cut down on it since that time.
Now you just got to build
So it's
up.
been like when I stopped, it's fucking just.
Yeah, so now you just got to build up, right? That's peace,
Well,
God.
actually,
Yeah.
that one substance, so since that one substance, my body was turning into that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
now that I'm reversing it, it's like it's easy to release it because it's that one substance.
Right.
It's not like the people that have all the other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But everything's in peace, man.
That's peace, God.
Plus, I retired from the system.
Oh, yeah?
Because I didn't go back to the school.
Yeah.
My pension, I'm good. I just gotta wait, but I'm still doing my other stuff.
That's peace, God.
Yeah. So I got more time to come in.
Indeed, God.
I'm about to take this over.
Right? Word.
Push it again, hard.
Indeed, God. Peace, God. Let me go back because I saw Kasim's question. I skipped Malik about the plus lesson. I didn't give it to you, Malik, because obviously I must have, when I taught that on here, had to be back 2020. That probably got lost or I didn't, but it's an old plus lesson, and I don't give it out because it's really heavy. So it's really for the builders, the people that I don't see, you know what I mean? And it hasn't been given out in a while because I haven't remembered it. Not for any other reason other than that. You know what I mean? But I was just about to ask you how much you fast and how do you eat your Ezekiel bread. You know what? I'll start. I fast when I fast mainly intermittently because the way I train now, I train almost all the time. So I'll do intermittent fast, and they feel intermittent because it's not that hard anymore. So like for me, intermittent fast, if I go 24 hours though, that feels like an intermittent fast because it feels halfway, which probably what I do now because I'm not gonna literally, and sometimes it doesn't feel like a fast because I structure my life to not eat. So I'm not gonna be eating until like 2 o'clock, but that serves me really easily because I'm doing so many things before then. So it doesn't feel like a struggle. But mainly my fasts are usually like 24 hours, depending on when there's a rest day or anything like that. You know what I mean? But usually on a rest day, right? But I don't get too many rest days for training, so that's if I teach people, I'm doing a lot of training, so you know. Yeah, Ezekiel bread. I haven't eaten Ezekiel bread in a while, and that's not because it's not unhealthy, but because I've had problems with the gluten. So I haven't for like the last couple of months. I've been gluten free. You know what I mean? But Ezekiel bread, if you can take the gluten, it's great. You know, but have it like anything else. So you can have some almond, raw almond butter, right? Trader Joe sells raw almond butter the same price as the roasted. So like, get the raw. Raw almond butter. I like to put, fruit preserve on it. The fruit preserve, not like jelly and crap with lots of sugar, but fruit preserve with no sugar on it. That's my favorite type of sandwich. But I haven't had a sandwich in months. You know what I'm saying? Because of that, I could buy the gluten-free bread, but I remember the last time I bought gluten-free bread, I didn't like the way it tastes. You know what I mean? And I also felt like a lot of gluten-free breads, they put a lot of sugar in it. Why do I want a bread that has ingredients? That was the reason I was eating Ezekiel bread. But Ezekiel bread, if you could deal with the wheat, it's the best bread. It's the best bread. It's a living food. It's sprouted. It's great. Um, but going back to that, Kasim said, I was literally about to ask you, what do you see the point of life in going through what we go through to be the collective conscious AK1 mind? I think this. I think that the point is that we're going to get somewhere. And I don't know. I think that we put ourselves in this position because we don't really know. And that we're ever creating this. You know what I mean? So the point of it, though, is that we are actually created. That's why people say the journey is what counts, because the journey is where you could find the meaning. But the ultimate meaning, I really, really, really see it that we're going to figure that out as we go. You know what I mean? And getting back from losing the knowledge of self to gaining the knowledge of self, that's going to be very crucial to getting to that point. Yeah. But Malik, yeah, it's Malik. That's definitely a plus lesson I would give to you. I just wasn't in my head to think about giving that one. You know what I mean? Totally forgot about it. You said you recovered from your toe surgery, so I'll be in touch in person. And Zoom watch. Got to get back to driving. That's peace, God. I look forward to it, God. I know this weekend, Saturday is going to be the only day I'm going to be out there at the fort. If you can wants to make it out to Fort Wadsworth, you know what I mean? My rates are low. But even if you couldn't afford it and you just want to see, like, or if you're not sure, like, if you really want to be like that, you want to do the knowledge first, come through. You know what I mean? Nah, you don't need to bring any props though, unless there were some cool weapons, you know what I mean? But everything that you would need for me to share with you, because you're a martial artist that's dope anyway. So, you know, like, so whatever I'm going to teach you is just adding on to everything that you already know. You know what I'm saying? Because you dope. So, but yeah, like any kind of weapons, you know, like I bring the weapons I like to use. You know what I mean? But as we go along, other weapons I would show. I would bring them. You know what I mean? To mess with. Thank you, Malik. I think that martial arts opens up a lot of my mental thought process. You know what I mean? And it happened. There's a martial book of aphorisms and ideas that I wrote that I'm going to publish soon, but I wrote it years ago. And I learned that the best way to write was after I trained or did something physical. And a lot of times that sparked me, you know what I mean? So like those two combined, you know what I mean? Like, so it benefits in so many ways. I'm just naming that because it's in my head, but you know. And people don't see the videos where I suck, you know what I mean? They don't see they never saw the years where I couldn't move, the years where the injuries, all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So a lot of times when I share clips, it's because I think they're cool, but for some of the other students or something, it shows some of the skill, you know, that it's useful. Because I think that with a lot of kung fu and a lot of kung fu and a lot of Wing Chun, people don't see how it's useful. So I think that's what's important. I started reading that book. Let's see. I have it here because it's. You talk about the FOA book, right? Fighting of Allah. I've read. How much did I go in this book? I read about a quarter of it. About a quarter of it. I don't know if it's trying to be a complete history of the gods in martial arts. I'm not in it, so it's not a complete history, if I could be egotistical, but not really me, but the gods that I trained with in that generation, you know, from 2000 on. But at the same time, I find it very interesting. And a lot of the principles I find creatively shared, but I'm still at the stage in the beginning where I'm still not quite sure of the nature of the fighting style and stuff like that. So I'm still reading it though. I had to buy it, but I bought it in a different app, the Kobo Books app, which I don't like. I realize I don't like. So I keep forgetting to read it. You know what I mean? And you guys are just reminding me of everything that I've forgotten. I only got to pour through it and got to finish it. I would say I would like to think that martial arts has given me mental health, definitely clarity. You definitely see the world differently when you train, and you know what I mean. And you definitely have more confidence that you can create the conditions of your own survival and thriving. I think that's what martial arts teaches you, you know. And I don't mean in an aggressive way, but if people read the way I write and stuff like that, I kind of write martially, and I've always written that way. But when I learned martial arts, it only augmented that, you know. So martial arts was always something that it was the perfect fit. So much so that you could say it was destined, you know, for me to live that lifestyle. Peace, Rome. What was the law of reason for putting but? But brings rain, hail, snow, earthquakes. A simple pedagogical reason, reaction. Um, Originally, what? He put but because when he would ask, Firstborn Prince taught me that when he would ask them about what they were doing and if they had done such and such, they would always answer but. So he said, since y'all always answer but, you always have excuses, but brings rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes. So it's actually like and when you hear stories like that, you realize that the concept of refinement being put into power is not that outlandish for the way that he used to talk to the gods. You know what I mean? That he was teaching, especially in Mecca. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's funny that that has prevailed in the lesson, but refinement is such a big deal. You know, it's all what people focus on. You know what I mean? But this type of pedagogy is the same. You know, we should obviously, as a vegan, what I call focusing on what I call the living foods diet, because a lot of the stuff that we're eating that is plant based is terrible for you, you know. But I think we should abstain from all the poison animals. I mean, that's always been a position of mine. So definitely, definitely, absolutely. Serious, you said word is bond, God. Dealing with maintain protein intake while on plant-based diet has been a challenge, especially when working out. I don't have that problem. So I think that there's a lot of good protein powders if you're worried about that. But also know this, that sometimes the way that you're gaining weight, if you're judging the protein by whether you're getting muscle, getting bigger, that's not always based on protein. So like the nuts and seeds, right? Nuts and seeds, right? Lots of nuts, man. Lots of almonds, cashews, all of these things. Walnuts. Get into eating nuts. That's why I always tell people go to Trader Joe's, get yourself the bags of nuts. That's where I'm going to after this class, and get more. You know what I mean? Keep your diet heavy with that if you're vegan. All right, but also the grains. You know, the oatmeal, the other things. Um, don't abstain from the grains. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot of beans, a lot of lentils, all types of beans. You know what I mean? Get your greens in, your salads, right? If you're gonna deal with anything, I love tempeh because it's fermented, it's mixed with other grains, so it's a real superfood, right? Always organic, no GMO. If you're gonna deal with soy, tempeh is the best food. You know, all right? Give me a minute. I gotta let out some of this water.
Since we're talking about it.
All right, let's see. All right, so we have our last hour coming up. All right. Next week, I'm going to go through the progress questions. Let me open up something here. You know, I was talking about the ancient texts. I want to make some points about this. One of the reasons that the ancient texts are useful is to study people over millennia, how they have collected the way that people should live, how best should they live righteous, all of these things. And these are things to take note of as we go along through history. And that's why the ancient texts are crucial. You know what I mean? And that's why reading is crucial, you know? Let me see. I didn't realize there were comments here. But like you said, funny how some say we shouldn't or should because of duration of life. Right. 1,000 pounds of navy beans too, right? You know what? Keep your beans diverse, man. You know what I mean? Black beans, you know, the red kidney beans too. Navy beans is good too. No, they're good. I'm very into chickpeas too. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, I see the arguments, right? True self about like animals being like vegetarian and things like that, and they're being real diesel, right? Because they're herbivores. Um, that's not the number one reason to have this lifestyle. It's because um, the natural health of it. You know what I'm saying? It's just you have to get used to it. You have to find what's going to gain you the weight, and you have to also understand that when you become vegan and you get rid of meat and dairy, you're not collecting lots of fat. And a lot of people's great or bad bodies, right? The spectrum, I'm giving you the whole spectrum, is augmented by dairy and meat. You know what I'm saying? It's augmented by the fat that piles onto whatever they have developed. So that's important to take note. So when you become vegan and stuff, you have to eat a lot more. You have to eat a lot more and you have to get used to it. You know? I think in my diet, I've made it where I eat a lot of quality. You know, I eat a lot. I'm telling you, I eat a lot of different types of nuts and seeds. You know, I probably eat like a few pounds of nuts and seeds throughout the week. You know what I'm saying? Um, my go-tos, almonds. I love raw almonds. I love roasted cashews. Raw is always the best, but I love roasted cashews. Um, I love raw almonds. I love roasted sunflower seeds. No salt. No salt. If you're going to eat in bulk and get bigger with nuts and seeds, you cannot be eating them salted. Because what's going to happen is that you're going to have so much salt accumulating in you. People that eat nuts and seeds as a rarity or as a treat, maybe the salt, whatever. But if you're going to eat lots of nuts and seeds to get that bulk and enjoy them like that, you really have to not have them salted. So never salted. Um, I really like roasted hazelnuts, but I love raw hazelnuts as well. So either or. Um, if you're trying to get fat and bigger too, they're more expensive, but you can't eat a whole bunch of them. That's how filling they are. Is Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are great. You know, so these are the seeds. You know, pumpkin seeds are good. I'm not a big fan of them though. If I have them, I throw them in the salad. You know, everything tastes good in salad because you put that olive oil in there. You know what I mean? Olive oil is great for you. Right? Malik, you talk about the Bill degree and the 1 to 40, announcing him or exposing him because he's being exposed. You know what I mean? And this lifestyle that the devil leads, though, it only has power by not being exposed. You know what I mean? The secrecy of it all. Right?
might need to get some more. Well, that stuff you gotta get on your computer. You get on the computer, you can play all that.
All right. Oh, Trader Joe's nuts. It's the only place I could afford them. You know, and also my other thing is I love dried fruit, but I never buy dried fruit that has chemicals in them, and never buy dried fruit that has sugar in them. Because again, if you want to eat them in bulk, you're just gonna get too much fat. There's so much natural sugar in a dried fruit. You don't need it though. So like, my favorite is obviously dried mango, um, dried cherries, dried figs. Okay, but again, never chemical. And of course, Trader Joe sells both, so you gotta look. You know what I mean? If there's nothing there, I get organic raisins. I make sure my raisins are organic. They come from great grapes, are very pesticide. I'm not a fan of raisins, but I'll deal with them if I can't find anything. Sometimes now Trader Joe's doesn't have everything. Um, and I love apricots. Apricots are a good example of the denatured and the healthy. Organic apricots will be dark; they'll be blackened. Those are the good ones. Um, Apricots that are chemicalized actually look like the original apricot or orange, but they look like a bright orange. It's not realistic. All right, that's because they're using dyes and stuff and chemicals to preserve the color. Though that's not good for you. That's not good for you. And again, these are healthy foods, so like you're gonna eat them in bulk. You know what I mean? Because I like using dried fruit because you get the benefits of the fruit for a cheaper price, but also always on call. Sometimes you can't always get good fruit. Sometimes fruit is expensive and whatnot. And also you could travel with the fruit, dry fruit easier. So it's the best. You know what I mean? It's the best. I've never read that book, Stickman. I always wanted to read that. I gotta buy that. I gotta get that. You know, always respected everything he's always done. Stand up, brother. He did a real big solid for me when I was doing my magazine years ago. You know what I mean? Wrote 2 columns for me. Didn't charge me anything. Stand up. I mean, great brother, right? But yeah, Trader Joe's is where I get them. The illusion of inclusion has hindered us tremendously. I think that's been a problem for all of humanity, especially our people. Yeah, sulfur is heavy, especially with apricot. Yeah, but any chemical, because it's real easy. Look at the ingredients, make sure it has nothing in it, just the fruit. Then you know. But again, buy things from the back of the label, not the front. You know, always from the back of the label to make sure everything is right and exact. You know? Some of the nuts, you know, I like all the nuts. I can't eat peanuts. I'm allergic to peanuts, so I don't eat peanuts. But if you can afford peanuts, no sugar, no salt, peanuts are great. But I used to eat a lot of peanuts and peanut butter, and I don't know. I just developed the allergy to it, along with gluten. So I haven't dealt with them. And there's books I'm studying about how people are developing all these allergies, though, and I think it has something to do with glyphosate and all these things. You know what I mean? a lot of the natural enzymes that would be in our bodies have been destroyed by the environment and by the way they're denaturing the crops, and that affects everyone, whether you buy organic or not. So that might have something to do with it. But there's a couple of books I've collected, and I started to read about them. I always want to know why. Always want to know why. All right. Oats in particular have been notorious for having high level of glyphosates. That's right, Noah. That's right. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because oatmeal and oats are really, they're really great for you. A lot of times that's my quick, when I don't have time to have that post workout meal. That's what I go to. You know what I mean? I know that I don't know about General Mills, but I know that Quaker is GMO free. So I don't know if it being GMO free keeps the glyphosates from being in there, right? Not sure. We would hope so, but that may not be the case. Mm. That's unfortunate, but if at Trader Joe's, these are like things you could store. So if you could get to Trader Joe's once a week or once every 2 weeks, make a big score, because all of this stuff can be stored for a long time. You know what I mean? The nuts and seeds and dried fruit. You know what I mean? So that's important though. But yeah, in my research, a lot of science, and I also have a lot of books I'm about to read on, the what's it called? The microbiome, the gut bacteria, the natural gut bacteria, and how glyphosate and other chemicals are destroying that. And this is something that is the reason why so many people are getting allergies and just getting sick in general. I think that's why certain things like probiotics, things like my favorite beverage, kombucha, these are all crucial because they're so filled with probiotics, you know what I mean, and prebiotics, but we have, all this has destroyed all of the enzymes that actually work inside the body, you know what I mean? So it's not always necessarily the food, you know what I mean? It's what's being, It's what's being done around the food and to the food, but not the food itself, you know? And that it's one thing you learn in the book, the real Anthony Fauci, is that it goes through the whole history of how he has been in his reign, which has been a long time, way too long. Should not be allowed to hold court that long. But he's head of nutrition and diseases, and they have only tripled and become massive in his time. And that tells you everything you need to know. Fish jerky. I don't know if I doubt I'd be interested in that. Never heard of fish jerky though before. Yeah, do that, Malik. See what you can get. But there's a reason they're expensive. It's the holy grail. You know what I mean? Nuts and seeds I think they need to be in everyone's diet, not as an add-on, as we learn about them as a snack and a healthy snack that is denatured by all types of salt and everything like that, but not the case. You know what I mean? Okay. All right, let me hear some builds on the day's math. Also today's degrees, who's the 85? You know what I mean? What are the strategies? How are we dealing with the 85? You know what I mean? Has that gotten worse? Has that progressed? For those who are just getting the knowledge, how have they adapted to this new, this new bracketing of humanity? You know what I mean? It can be very jarring. All right, let me know. All right. Let me know. Let me know your builds. Those who are new and still here watching, listening, let me know experiences though. Get this knowledge yourself. We're told about the 5, 10, and the 85. That's today's degree, 85. How are we dealing with them? How is this change? How does this change your life knowing this framework of the people? You know what I mean? How does it keep us from being egotistical as well? You know what I mean? Thoughts on it? Malik, you said awareness of culture allows us to see our natural way of life, and the ability to influence others in a positive manner only gives understanding how we should be. Hmm. You know, it's interesting. Very interesting. I agree with that, Rome. I haven't used powders for years, and I've been very successful without it. Very successful. Um, One of the reasons that I like a good protein powder at times is you don't have time to eat a proper post workout meal, and you don't want to just eat something bad, you know. And I think that a good protein powder is better than having a protein bar, which will usually be more processed than even, you know, than the powder, and certainly filled with lots of sugar. Moringa, maca, ashwagandha, simas. Good, good. Absolutely. Also, too, here's, excuse me. I think personally that the way protein powders are designed is to overload you with protein, and I feel like the body can't take that much protein. You know what I mean? In one shot. You know what I mean? Um, it might be too much protein. You know. So even when I was still when I have a protein, I usually get a protein powder from certain companies like Amazing Grass or certain other companies. Um, but I only use them like as an emergency, like if I have to run out the house, I don't have time. And like I said, when I'm training, I'll complete that training, as opposed to cut it short so I could go have a meal. So it doesn't work that way. So that's what happens. But so I wouldn't say no to it completely, but also the amount of protein they expect you to take in one serving. No, you have to gauge yourself. I don't think that a load of 25 grams, 30 grams. People are like, oh, this has 50 grams. Like that's an overload. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are bigger and stuff like that, but still, that still would be a lot. Malik, you said that 85 are definitely not receptive to old ways of teaching. We have to adapt as such to stay. I had to keep teaching useful way and effectively and efficiently. What people find out of the youth today is that they don't have a framework of knowledge. In other words, there's nothing in the music that they're listening to or anything like that because they're not really having to fight to listen to music. It's all at their fingertips. So that's their culture. So they're assuming that the bad music that's being put on the radio or is popular on social media is their music. So the messages are their messages. And so what happens is they don't have a culture of rebellion in them that sees deeper knowledge and ideas as the way to go. It's different than when we were getting the knowledge in that sense. And so that framework has to be taught to them too. you know and again, this is done slowly. I think that just like when we see, like, for example, hip hop is not really hip hop what they're listening to. What's really lost is not just the quality of the music. It's really there if you just show it to them. But what's really lost is the engagement in it, the engagement in some type of cultural activity. In this case, it would be hip hop, that was showing them originality, that was showing them to be creative, but also original. These are frameworks of ethos that can be transferred and must be transferred into how we deal with ourselves. So that's important, very important. Red kale, avocado, baby spinach, nice. I'm with you, except for the fish. But yeah, good stuff. Well, the 1 to 14 was, I don't know that word. I don't know what are you spelling strategic? What I teach about the 85 is that the 85 are neither good nor bad. They are inconsistent. See? So an 85er is not a good person or a bad person, generally a good person, because most, if you, depending on how you see humanity, and being that we deal with this knowledge itself, we certainly have to look at humanity as generally good. Then they are inconsistent. You know what I mean? Whereas the nature of the 10% is to conquer and destroy what is there for his own gain. And the nature of the 5% is to master the reality without altering it, without destroying it, right? Without impeding on it, its natural way, right? Joy said, I liken this to a premeditated lifestyle mastery of mindful introspection on freedom through the scope of focused, sustainable. Okay, I'm going to read that again. I don't know if there's more to that. It feels like there's more. Malik, you said they want power, money, respect quickly. And if we aren't teaching them a tangible responsibility to get such in a civilized manner seems fruitful. Yeah, definitely. All right, let me read that again, Jarrell. I liken this to a premeditated lifestyle, mastery of mindful introspection on freedom through the scope of a focused, sustainable development. You know, interesting, interesting. That's how we see it. Definitely, knowledge, culture, born power. You know, and it's so interesting that that degree, knowledge, culture, is the actual degree of the 85 and the 1 to 40. Something good was going to be their degree because all numbers are good, all numbers are potent. But especially interesting in that because that's the problem with the 85. They don't knowledge culture. Just as you said, today's math is knowledge, culture, all being born to power. After acquiring cumulative facts of who you are, you can live your culture freely. That's power. Power is the ability to do and accomplish something. Mhm. Related to the degree prior, power is the extension, the influence of that culture and how far it extends outwardly. And it's very crucial to understand that. I mean, sometimes something we think is not powerful will be powerful in a different way. So that is important. Mm. You hear that, Justice? Go deeper. Expound on this. Maybe an example of how you see it, how you see that applied. You know? This is the next step when you have your builds. Like, what's a real living example? You try to make them, you try to come with the most intimate, something you might not even share with anybody, something that's very personal, because this is your personal build. But as you go along, though, then you try to add on and have examples you can share with other people. And I see when we're asked, though, we have to share something immediately. And that's what becomes, you know, the difficult part. I will, Malik. I'll let him know that you were asking as well. You know, when we're talking about acknowledging our culture too, the books we read are very important. When there are books that really give you a foundation, they'll make them books that you will read regularly. You know, so as you have a list of books that you want to engage with every year or every 2 years, or just a list of them that are crucial rereads. Okay, that's important to have that list as well. And you might, people don't make a list of the books that they read, and it's usually because they might not be happy with the amount that they end up with. But it's important because you want to see what you're doing the knowledge to. You know what I mean? Right? When we're in the teens, knowledge, add-on cipher, knowledge, wisdom, all of these, we're all taking note of, you know, of the way that we're learning, you know. And in this case, knowledge culture is like, what are the types of cultures? What are the details that we're getting from other people's? You know what I mean? Our own cultures, the expansiveness of our culture. Have we ever sat down and detailed what our culture is, meaning that we're true and living gods? Like, what is our culture? What would that look like on a day-to-day basis? Did you ever do something? You know, you ever do something and you just say, this is right. This is my culture. I do this daily. This is culture. This is culture of the true and living God. You know what I mean? I do that mentally when I eat things, when I train, all of these things, right? Choices I make, though, you know, well, I'm the true and living God. What is the culture? And that a lot of times will predicate and dictate your next move. You know what I mean? That's very important. Very important. Noah share. I don't know the details of how you have knowledge yourself. So that would be really great to know. A lot of the other students that are adding on here, I build with them outside of the classroom through email or through phone and stuff. So I already know their framework, but I don't know yours, like your history or anything like that. So that's why. But you certainly can share. Terrell, you said like when I go to a restaurant for an interview, tell the lady I eat vegan. She says, "Oh, you're eating vegan today?" And my coworker says, "He's like that every day." Right. Yeah, because eating vegan is an option like eating Thai or Mexican or Chinese. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's peace, Terrell. Now that knowledge is the culture. Yeah. No, you said knowledge is the essence of one's nature, realized through experimentation. I don't know about that. These experiments reveal themselves as a way of interacting with the world and vice versa culture. In the process of knowledge, hypotheses is tested, experiments are carried out, and the results are used to further refine our process. You said how we. The reason I say this, right? The reason I don't know is because when we talk about knowledge, you're telling me how you gain knowledge and how knowledge is gained. But what is knowledge itself, right? Is what people forget to answer. What actually is knowledge? Right? That's very important. You also added, in this light, I see the 85 as one of the states of mind one goes through during this process of experimentation. Maybe, but remember, 85 is not a necessary process. It applies that the way you wrote that implies that it's necessary. What about my children that aren't 85, right? Or the young that get it? They're not 85. You know what I mean? But I think you said it's like taking a snapshot and making a collage of our culture. To behold as our culture. Okay. Yeah. So none of the things, Noah, that you said are wrong per se. It's not wrong, you know. Right? We experiment with truth, just like Gandhi said, right? And we develop. So truth is something developed. That's why I say it's a creative idea as well as knowledge, right? But it is a truthful, actual fact, and it exists because we either built it or we discover it. But it is that essential, absolute fact. It cannot be analyzed and expressed differently. It is. It just is. Right? So that's important, though. We got like 15 minutes left, okay? All right. Okay, in these last 15 minutes, I want to hear what everybody has to say. Um, Let me throw these out. I have not had the chance to write, but I have the chance to edit things and add things. If you're interested in writing, adding on, if you don't know what to write, I'll give you suggestions. Um, my email to build with. Okay, if you're interested in me being your enlightener or anything else that you want to know, any books that you want that I mentioned here, etc., etc. No, he said as a student, where do I start from? I'm based in Ghana. The climate is different. Chaos is scarce. Would love to learn the basics with proper. Well, no, definitely email me. Um, Malik, you said awareness or observation of the way I get dressed, eat, get in my chair, only gives one truth or power to appreciate how easy you have it. No, I definitely see that. I definitely see that. Knowledge culture is about being in the moment, living your culture, but you're acknowledging what you're doing. And this is very crucial to, since we talk about Buddhism, that's a heavy Buddhist principle.
Please go.
Peace. Okay, that's great knowing. All right. Peace. Did you got my email now? Anyway, I'm usually here at 5. If I get here earlier, I start earlier. When I start, I'm here for 3 hours. Okay. Um, but definitely 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time is the time I work to get here. But these are all being archived now, so as soon as it's done, you can go back and do the knowledge to it again. And if you have questions, ask them in the comments or email me. You know what I mean? Whatever is comfortable for you. Okay. And I prefer email only especially if you want to build with me on a deeper student teacher level. Okay. Can knowledge of the culture bring about an unintended display of power? I'm trying to think of how that would play out, because we're talking about people that knowledge the culture. They seriously do the knowledge. They have actual knowledge of that culture. I don't know how it would be unintended display of power. And the truth is that all culture extends itself outwardly. There's always going to be a portion of unintended display, you know, right? In addition, I'm aware of others' reality and solely theirs. Thus, the truth is seeing it as we interact with each other and appreciate life, says Malik. Well said. And I think, Joel, you were answering to that, saying, I think if a person gets stuck on 6 and can't get out of the realm, possibly. Again, we're being very abstract. You know, we need a better detail of what that might look like. You know what I mean? or else it's just kind of like conjecture and things. All right, so anybody, I gave the email, the 5% media page. If you want to add on, I need people to add on if they want to write. Also, if you're interested in training in the martial arts, though, inquire about my rates, though. If you just want to see how it all goes down, though, and then, you could add on with payment later if you find it worthy. Come through. I'm going to be there Saturday at Fort Wadsworth in Staten Island. Okay. That's right on Bay Street. When you get to Von Briesen Park, it's right next to it. But let me know. I'll be there Saturday. Early in the morning, 10 o'clock. All right. I'll be there earlier than 10 o'clock, but students I expect to arrive by 10. All right. And I'm usually there for up till 12. Okay. People come in and they join and everything like that. I'll be there longer, obviously. But if you get there at their appointed time, then we have a 2-hour session. So it's a lot of bill. I teach you, as always, I share a lot. So whatever pay I request, though, will definitely be earned on my part. Hopefully. All right. What a different class this was than last session. I appreciate that, Malik. These are not easy times for me, but they're also not out of the range of reality. They're quite, sadly to say, they're quite normal. You know what I mean? So learning how to deal with them is important in how we deal with everything. Everything is real. All right. But with that said, everybody keep in contact, let's build and everything. Since we only have a few minutes left, I just had this thought about reading and stuff, but like actually collect a couple of books and plot how you read them. What do you want to know? And then separate what you want to know, what you read very easily. Right? That way, when you falter with your reading, you go back to those books that are easy to read. You know what I mean? But it's important, though. It's important. All right? Appreciate that, Joel. And the AC is really kicking. Peace of the God, Raja, man. You put the AC in here. I have never been this cool ever teaching in here. It's like I had to look at my phone and see, is it hot outside? It's 85 degrees right now outside. I'm so nice and cool in here that I'm going to be cool until I get to the train. All right. So on that note, right? And just remember, we're over halfway through the year. So if you feel like you don't have good goals or you haven't started, let this be the practice ground for how strong you're going to build next year. So start them now. Start these goals now. All right. Has to be broad. And sometimes when you broaden the palette for reading, then you'll figure out what you truly love to read. A lot of times you'll be very surprised. You know what I mean? And I don't care if you start, if your go-to when you're not reading well is a graphic novel, it's still creative. It's still creativity that you're absorbing. You know what I mean? I'm the worst. I have one graphic novel I'm reading. Right? Some Avengers thing I found. And I'm reading it mad slow. You know what I mean? But the point is that you try to engage in all things, the more things. You know what I mean? Right? Exactly. You know what I mean? All right. So with that said, I'm going to let everybody go. I'm going to say peace to everybody that added on, everybody that was doing the knowledge. Willingly that more people that do the knowledge, they actually email me to try to get this knowledge more in depth. Noah, I'm looking forward to an email from you. So let's do that. Let's get this knowledge. You know what I mean? Let's get this knowledge. Let's use it and do what we can do and change this world, make it greater, better. Right? As we see, it only gets worse. So the things that we add on can only add on. That's the thing about doing something righteous and right and exact. It can only add on. It can never hurt. You know what I mean? People worry about how things are so insurmountable, but the things that you do can never not add on, right? So that's the mentality that we're going to take. All right? Peace.